I tell you what, I want to. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Peter.
I want to respond. I want to respond to some criticism that we got from an earlier story, which is apparently someone got upset about the fact that I called these the poor widow Google people who are getting paid £150,000 a year babies, and apparently made some people mad. And you know what? I don't care. You should not be mad if you're making $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
Peter's position is if you're making $150,000 a year, that's enough, and keep your mouth shut.
No,
shut up.
No,
you have nothing to cry about.
Peter says, "Shut up." That's what he said.
You whiny little baby.
Slightly more nuanced now.
Man, baby. What are you? Not making $150,000.
How is that more nuanced?
No, it's that because it's not. That isn't my opinion. My opinion is slightly more.
You didn't make it sound like a correction in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I took away from it.
The fact that you were complaining about having to find another job because Google are not paying them enough. Like, okay, find another fucking job. Jesus. All right.
Wait, Peter, that you are saying that.
So you are saying that.
You're saying, shut up.
What are you clarifying here?
Is enough. That's what I'm saying. If they want more, okay, be a capitalist. But and that's fine. I genuinely don't care.
But they weren't saying. So the story was that they were upset because other people being hired for the same job with less seniority were being paid more.
Guys. The episode hasn't started yet, and it's not about this.
No, okay. No, so Peter started the wrong episode is what happened here, John. So this is what we're going to do. Peter just introduced a work reform story on today's Not So Critical Update. I'll have the story now.
Wow, I don't earn enough money. That's all I can say.
Oh my God, Peter! I can't believe you just did that to us. At any rate, let's. So that's the story we were going to do. Here's the story we're doing now. Thank you, Peter. So a group of stories, and what's remarkable here is, I guess, a couple things. One is the framing. Tech companies coddled their employees, and now they're firing them. Let me wait for Twitter to reload here. Thanks, Twitter. Workers are rebelling as employers want them to return back to the office. In all these cases, it's these entitled employers against their ungrateful, rebellious, coddled employees. And it's just like the way we think about business is so terrible. Employment is the worst. And this, I think, was the point John made last time, is about the... you guys are just not going to jump in at all here. Like, let me keep going.
I'm waiting for you to make your point so I can tell you how right you are. Go on.
You can start with that now. I have a couple of points, but we'll take them one at a time.
I like that they used Elon in the picture. It was just him stepping out of a Tesla. Completely irrelevant, but I guess maybe they mentioned Tesla.
Well, so this story...
It's
just to remind you, because I'm sure you read it, was about an incident at SpaceX where he observed a group of employees standing around a coffee maker, and a sign showed up that said basically no loitering.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
God, he's
this. By the way, this happened in the UK government. There's a guy called Jacob Rees-Mogg who is like very right wing. He wears like a top hat and shit. He's whatever. I don't want to talk about him too much, but he did this passive aggressive thing where he walked around his office and all the employees who were working, all the civil servants who were working from home, he left them a printed out note that said, sorry that I couldn't catch you while you were away from your desk, but really looking forward to seeing you in person when we can catch up together and have a chat. Thanks.
You just keep doing that every 5 minutes throughout the day.
What a dick, honestly.
It's a CEO with not enough time on his hands.
Yeah, it really is.
It is so insane to me. A huge portion of the workforce that is returning to the office now is returning because they want to have water cooler talks with their coworkers. That could be the highlight of your day, is to have that 5 to 10 minute break next to a couple of friends that you work with and having face-to-face conversations. And he somehow managed to even fuck that up.
Well, that I don't know if that happened during this return to work, but this group of stories all kind of tells the same story of just contempt for employees and entitlement on behalf of the employers. And that's just how we've been conditioned to think about things in this country. Which is a point you've made before. I think the other piece to this is, so it's important to understand employees are an expense to businesses. Businesses don't want to hire people. Businesses have no interest in lower unemployment. They only hire people as a last resort if it's going to help them make more money somehow. They're not hiring people out of the good of their hearts. They don't care about people. Like, I mean, that's individually the owners and the people who are hiring care about the people that they work with, I'm sure. But as a business, you make money.
Why does this have
by
to
turning
be
unemployment?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. But it makes me sad that it has to be that way, or that it is that way. I told you before about this friend of mine who he's a contractor or a consultant or whatever you call it, freelancer, and he has written into contracts with his clients that he cares about their happiness, and they need to care about his happiness too. And I love it.
That will never stand up in court.
No, it doesn't have to.
But I think it's the intent or the thought, right? It's that you are like, if someone is sitting at the contract, they get to that point and they're like, no, take that out. Right there. That's it. You know, don't do business with that person.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love it, because I think if we started from that point, and then it, you know, anyway, I think what you're saying is employers don't care because they're a business and all they care about is money. That's what businesses are all about. Fine.
Well, it's also the narrative. Look at the narrative that's being pushed, Peter. Look at the narrative that's being pushed by Bloomberg and all these news outlets, where they're basically shitting on the employee, while like making the employer sound like this hero. Like they're, you know, the employer, parent, fed up coddling their children employees. They're gonna give them the you know, the hard end of the stick, like it's game over for you.
This is Bloomberg, though. I mean, this is like
it's fucking Bloomberg. No, but it's Bloomberg. It's not like that's something to shit on. It's not like beeping computer, you know.
And this is what I like about the Great Resignation and the work reform movement, is that it's forcing employers to deal with this. And there are some really good employers out there who really take care of their employees.
Modern form of communism is what it is. It's
sure, let's go. I'll take it.
Or no, let's not go.
Oh no.
Communism bad, you guys.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's got a few points. But,
Capitalism, good.
So here's ultimately the thing that I want to talk about, though. I think I've heard from both of you that like it's okay to then treat your employers this way. Be very mercenary, and if they don't, you know, if you're going to leave, just leave. You don't owe them anything because they're not going to do anything for you, and if you they would fire you without notice if the roles were reversed. So don't feel bad about just walking out. Am I mischaracterizing anything?
That's a great mentality to have, I think.
Slightly. I think because, well, here's the thing. I think in principle, it's okay to treat your employers like that, because that's how, in general, they treat their employees.
Yeah.
And you have a contract with them, and that contract doesn't say things like, we care about you and we want you to be happy. It's just a contract. It's an agreement. We give you something and we get something in return.
Yep.
But personally, I don't behave like that because I don't feel good about only doing a half-assed job. So one of my...
But it's not dictating to do a half-assed job. It's dictating... what's really I think the two things... Wait, sorry, I'm going to hijack this, Peter. Two things.
Right. Yeah, okay.
One, you can't be mercenary as an employee because most of the time this is your livelihood. And just fucking quitting doesn't always work because you need to pay bills. You have children, you have a mortgage, whatever it is. So sometimes you just can't be a dick like that. But employers can because they have the protection of the company.
It's not fair, really. I mean, they still need people to do the job itself. So
okay, so they have a bad month because they had to hire someone new.
Yeah, it can be a bit more complicated than that. I mean,
but I'm just saying, like, yeah, sure, they don't want to fire you, but if you're being a problem, of course they are. Why wouldn't
they have more? I think they in general have more power than the employee. Yeah,
yeah,
I think,
and that's the dynamic that's been created because take the power out of the employee's hands. This is why union busting is so big in places like America, where they don't want the employee to have power. They don't want them to have protections. And then the second thing is, on paper, this happens, but in person, it's a lot harder to do because as people, we don't really want to behave that way. We don't want to be dicks. We don't want to be hard asses because you're a person. You have empathy and sympathy.
And in a way, the systems companies designed to make these decisions more fairly, make them more impersonal, and make it even easier then for a company to make a decision like that, right or wrong.
Sometimes.
And I guess what I struggle with this because, like, I don't want it to be this way. I want the relationships to be more equitable, but at the same time, they're not. So I love this work reform movement. I love the Great Resignation. And I said to people, like, when the fast food restaurants were shutting down because they couldn't get people to staff certain shifts, like, yeah, that's terribly inconvenient for me. Our convenience store down the street started closing at 5 p.m. every night because they couldn't get second and third shift workers. Like, that sucks. Super inconvenient for me to not be able to go get a fucking candy bar at 10 p.m. if I feel like it. But how entitled am I that I need that, right?
Yeah.
And if the trade-off is that
that's so funny. Go ahead.
If the trade-off is that some employee gets a higher rate, like, yeah, absolutely, pay those people more so they'll do this thing to make my life incredibly easy and convenient. I should pay more for that.
The that's so funny because this convenience that has almost driven anti-work as a movement doesn't exist in Europe.
I hate that term, anti-work. It just
I know, but I'm saying it because
we call it work reform.
Everyone is work reform now. We're trendy. We're hip. We stay with it. Okay.
Keep up. Come on.
So this whole movement really doesn't actually exist in Europe because workers are treated super well there. Grocery stores close. You guessed it, super early. Sweden, grocery stores closed on Sunday.
Holidays thing just blew my mind when I started working for a US. And I was, I don't want to go into specifics because I like my company. I don't want to call them out as being bad. We have unlimited leave now. So, well, in theory, but the disparity between the European minimum holiday allowance of like 24 days a year.
And just to be clear, when Peter says holiday, he means vacation.
Oh God, yeah, Jesus, holiday means something. This was very complicated. I have had multiple conversations, multiple times with different people.
You're so British.
Right.
Peter is very particular about holiday policy specifically. There aren't a lot of things that Peter gets so worked up about.
I respect it. I remember back when we all worked together, I remember Peter would get so fucking worked up about his days. And you know what? I respect the shit out of it. Get that stuff written out.
He can take a lot of things, but document your fucking holiday policy.
Yeah. And when we say holiday, we mean pay time off, by the way.
Pay time off. Yeah. It's a thing. It's so different in Europe. 24 days legal minimum mandated. And in the US, it's like 11 was generous. 11 days.
11 is generous. First company I worked at, I had 3 paid days.
What?
Accrued over a year.
What? So you couldn't even take the first one until after 4 months?
What? You could. We got 30 days a year.
No, you could. but it was negative, so you'd get negative days. At
I
some
find
point, I was
that-
at negative 10 days. That if I quit, I had to pay
Yeah.
it back.
That's crazy.
How did nobody go, this is fucking crazy. We need to
People
fix
did.
this.
People did. And
So
now we get
the
unlimited
downside
pay
of you guys talking about how all this works in Europe is now America's never going to do it.
Yeah.
right, because America does
You
the
might as well
opposite.
brag about having single payer healthcare. Like, oh,
Right.
just because it works
Or
in
like
Europe
6
doesn't mean
months-
it'll
or
ever
like
work in
6
the
months
US.
maternity leave and
Oh boy.
6 months paternity leave and it's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
I think there's going to be a new thing in America where there'll be like benefits disparity. So there's the pay gap at the moment, where, between
That's
the-
happening. It's just not being talked about. It's so funny you say that. That is happening now.
Yeah.
If you're in tech or law or medicine, you get sick benefits, best health insurance. You get
that should be human defaults for
Of
like
course. of course.
paternity leave, maternity leave, time off for being sick, weekends off, that kind of stuff.
The thing
No,
I don't understand about healthcare, socialized single payer healthcare, is it's actually better for the businesses too. Healthcare is a huge expense for businesses. I don't understand.
Mhm.
Like everything in this country is so driven by what the businesses want. That's the one piece I can't connect in my mind is this is so much better for businesses to do it that way.
They're all about short-term money. Businesses, I just read a really interesting thing.
And the insurance industry, who are making shit tons of money.
Right.
But there are so many more businesses that aren't the insurance industry, and the insurance industry is still I don't know if they would get paid.
Lobby, do they? They don't have the pro healthcare lobby, the pro universal healthcare lobby.
Yeah, I don't know. It does. That's the piece that just never makes sense to me.
Right, John, what were you saying?
I read something really interesting that when you are looking for investors in Japan, your long-term business plan is 20 to 30 years, and your short-term business plan is the first 5 to 10 years. In America, when you're looking for investors, your short-term business plan is like a year. And that's right. And your long-term business plan is up to 5 years.
Yeah, max. Oh my gosh, sure.
So think about that. In America, they're hunting money tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is it going to be tomorrow?
Even if you're
Japan-
long-term, sorry, John.
I was just going to say, just wrapping up, Japan is thinking 3 decades ahead where we're going to be.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, go ahead.
And in the US, even if you do have a long-term business plan that goes out 5 years, have 2 bad quarters in a row and see what happens.
Right.
Right.
No,
right.
really. Now they got clauses in your agreement with investors that they're bringing in outside counsel and taking over leadership. Like two bad quarters.
This is something that I have sort of experienced by proxy and in person with where you have this bad quarter, like you're saying, and there's so much stress about it, as if there aren't market fluctuations, as if
Insane.
like things you don't have a period where you just kind of didn't do things perfectly and you went below like 10% below your projected revenue for the quarter for the last 3 months, and then everything's like, oh my god, what are we going to do? We got to fire people, we got to the business is going under, like board meeting. I don't know, it's
a huge factor, and I shouldn't even get into this because we're already at 18 minutes. We didn't do a story today about personal responsibility for tech leaders when hacks occur in their companies. A huge factor here is public ownership of companies. There's no person or family that has anything on the line. If a CEO blows it for a company, they just get fired and escape with their golden parachute. They've got no personal stake in it.
Parachute thing.
And the that they will have guaranteed bonuses. Even if they get fired, they'll walk away with some huge cash payout based on their compensation structure when they took the job, even if they completely blow it. So the lack of personal responsibility, the lack of individual private ownership of organizations, I think huge factors here. But we do whole other episodes on all that nonsense.
To be fair, I do want to say one thing that
To be fair.
I do. Thank you, guys. I was so hoping you wouldn't let me down there. To be fair, I do want to say that I think that my employer at the moment is is way better than a lot. Like most other companies.
I totally agree. I would say good even tier.
Sorry?
I would even go so far as to say good.
Yeah. Wait, hold on there. No, because they're brilliant. But yeah, I didn't want to imply anything there. That's all.